Got so many fantastic memories, you know, when I first come to Norwich. It was a dream come true for me, really, in the respect of I was at Crystal Palace one time at a big club and had to drop down a few leagues to then work my way back up to being where I wanted to be. And it was a fantastic start, getting 2 goals against Ipswich on my debut. Really set my path for promotion that season, and then getting into the Premiership again. Was once there at 18 years old with Crystal Palace, but now established professional, to play in the Premiership along with some fantastic players was fantastic for me. So once I got my opportunity, I grabbed it with both hands.
It happened at a very young age for you, really, wasn't it? I mean, you were being watched by Crystal Palace at 14, 15, and then, you know, by 17, 18, you were reaching the top, really. Do you think, looking back, that perhaps, I know you have to be young to be, you know, when you're at your peak, you have to be playing, but maybe a lot of pressure on you at a young age?
Oh, for sure. I think it comes with the territory of becoming a professional footballer. With any profession, there's going to be that high pressure impact that it has, and you just have to learn to deal with that, and that's exactly what happened. And again, there's certain things that you don't expect, and you got to learn yourself and experience yourself, and I did exactly that.
At that age, did you feel strong enough to cope with the pressure? Were you strong enough?
Yeah, I think my problem was not coping with the pressures around football. So there was a basis of that. I didn't cope with injuries as it went on to become quite instrumental in really psychologically damaging me, because I was getting so many injuries and probably never really showed my true potential of where I really wanted to be as a professional footballer, but still did okay with, you know, 18 years. I think it was more just life pressures more than anything, that you combine with a high expectancy of delivering your results, delivering day in, day out. You know, it can take its toll if you're not getting that support and help.
Yeah. And along with all of that, you're getting the adulation from the fans. I mean, social media wasn't such a big thing. Maybe that was a good thing.
Not at all. Yeah, I mean, there was no social network really capacity as it is now. You know, you got Instagram and Twitter and all these things that come with that social whole element. But yeah, I mean, I guess when you move with times.
Yeah. But with that pressure and then the amount of money that you're actually paid. The opportunity, I guess, is there to, unless someone's there to guide you, to press the sort of self-destruct button a little bit.
Yeah, it depends on your personality. I'm quite a sensitive individual, so there were times where I'd have the whole world on my shoulders. So much responsibility that was in my life at a very young age, and continued as life went on. And I just carried a lot. I wanted to do the best I could be the best I could be, and bring out that. And when it didn't go to plan, that's when I was sort of affected along the way.
Yeah. So you always knew you wanted to be a footballer?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because boxing was always in my life. So you could say that I was a boxer turned footballer. Right. And I use that analogy because I've done a counselling session with a gentleman called Gary Bloom, and he actually observed that it sounds like I was a boxer turned footballer, which was, I didn't go for it at first, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to agree with you on that. So I was really I really sort of held on to that, because that's what I truly believe, because boxing is in my family and it was in my life from an early age before football.
Because your dad and your uncle were very successful. Did they want you to be a boxer?
No, not necessarily. You know, my dad was a former British European champion. My uncle Duke was a former 3-time world champion. Having said that, I did find my way within football, and then ended up falling in love with football and working at my trade, and working to the point of going towards being the best I could be in football. And I think I give a good account of myself doing that.
So looking back, what was it that maybe triggered something within you that was the catalyst to a sort of battle with your mental health? Do you have a specific point?
As time has gone on and I've educated myself with mental health and I've experienced life, I really truly believe that there's a part of it where I feel that maybe it's quite genetic in a lot of ways. Mine goes back to childhood, I would say, where I kind of had traits of depression at a very young age, but didn't really understand the dynamics of it. It was only until I got older and started experiencing my own life properly as an adult, and going through just the normal things, divorce and missing my children and going through all the things that you don't plan. Everyone plans to live the fairy tale, and everyone plans for it to go exceedingly well, but when it doesn't, it's what your mind does then. And I had a lot of triggers. Football became a release for me. It became something I loved and enjoyed, and you could see that by the way I played. I gave 100%. I gave my heart. You could see that. No one could tell me any different, because that is just the way I played, and I was a team player. At the same time, when I left the training ground, or I left a Saturday after the game, so, I felt quite alone at times. There was times where it was a challenge, it was a struggle, and around the times I was playing, I wasn't really reluctant to sort of come forward and show that form of, as they say, weakness. I didn't know how to really take on board what was really truly happening inside. So with that, there becomes a problem where it just gets into a bit of a vicious cycle, because if you continuously leave something and it keeps eating away at you, you're only going to crash in the end. And that's exactly what happened in the end. And what happened also with football incorporated is injuries. So I constantly was getting injured, not because I just thought I'd wake up one day and just become an injury sort of prone player, but it really affected me. Expectation, the pressure of trying to deliver and make people happy. I just wanted to make people happy, even though if I was pretty much dying inside. I just wanted to. I loved scoring goals. I loved seeing fans get such joy from a goal. I can't explain to you what that did for me as a player to see that. So I totally get it on that. I just feel with the injuries, really psychologically damaged my mind, because I think I wasn't coping well, and I didn't know what to do. And it got to a later stage where I had to end up leaving Norwich for personal reasons again, more so to move closer to my children. At the time, going through another divorce, and having to leave a fantastic club. At the same time, you move on. I went to Coventry for a few years, played left midfield, and done okay considering playing that position and everything. And you try and take on what you can take on, but injuries came into play again. Really sort of struggled, really suffered alone a lot. Ended up leaving Coventry and moved to Charlton. Probably the worst year in football, where I'm really trying to hold on now. I'm really trying to hold on to my football career. I'm really trying to hold on to scoring goals again and feeling like me again, being like me again. And I couldn't get it back. I totally lost myself. It was another injury that caused me to really give up on life at that particular moment. And 2010, I think it was, around that sort of time, and I gave up. And it was a trigger. Everyone's got triggers. As human beings, we've all got triggers to send us maybe just over the edge, and my mind was delicate at the time, and I honestly lost all hope in myself. It wasn't a selfish act. It wasn't a cry out for help, get everyone to feel sorry for Leon McKenzie. It wasn't. It was more, I just give up of life. I give up. And when your mind gives up, you know, you'd be surprised at what it can actually do. And I did. I tried to literally end it all. One afternoon after training, I went back to a hotel and tried to end it all. My story and why I do what I do now, and by telling the story and how I do it, and I speak all over the UK now, is to provide the awareness, provide hope, provide faith for people, whether you're in my industry or whether you're a normal person who works every day hard in a normal job. We're still all human beings. So it's just about understanding that what I do now and the reasons behind why I'm speaking and continue to speak is to save lives ultimately. And I feel that's very important at a day and age where the pressure is even more so than it was when I was sort of back performing. 100%. And that exactly why I do what I do. I think it's important. Prevention is the key to any of this, and this whole topic that we speak about. Prevention is the key. It's not so much to wait for periods of mental health month and then start acting on it. We have to be consistent and continue to do things regular. That's the only way we get it in people's minds and really provide proper support. You've
come a long way. At the time when you were going through that sort of awful stage in your life, you after your suicide attempt, you then went back training the next day. And when did you get to the point where you thought, okay, I need some help here, I need someone to step in, and how did that come? Yeah,
I mean, that always sticks out in my mind, because, you know, when I did wake up in hospital and the next day, and then went to training like nothing had happened, that was a concern in itself, because I never really dealt with a problem. I knew there was a problem, but I never really dealt with it properly. So it wasn't so much that I didn't want to deal with it, I just didn't know where to go and what to do. I felt ashamed in a lot of ways. Gary Speed, when he tragically took his life, and I was sitting in my front room, and that popped up, and I was just like, wow, like it hit me so hard that I was like, that could have been me, literally. That could have been me. And when I was watching that, it did something to me, because I wanted to then make a change, not only to the way I think, but I needed to make a change to start telling my story properly and start having the confidence to come forward and say, do you know what, yes, had a fantastic football career, yes, very privileged, yes, very spoilt at times, but do you know what, with all the mistakes and the bad choices one makes in life, or whatever judgment you want to be put on the spot with, my heart's here. So I'm coming forward now to say, you know what, this is where I stand today, and this is what I've had to go through, and the reason I do that is to literally ultimately save lives, because I know, and there's so many people that struggle within society with mental health. Only way is, the only way by healing is by speaking and being honest with yourself and trying to find and capture your values again.
Yeah, I mean, you said that part of your personality was perhaps already preset to have struggle with depression, but it also seems that you are someone that is very resilient, and you can find your way to get out of a situation that you've got yourself into. And I love the fact that you've been very honest about when your football career ended, and you actually had some time in prison, didn't you? But you turned that around and you managed to make...
Yeah, listen, the prison scenario is somewhere where I wouldn't ever want to go back. A total waste of time. But for whatever reason, the circumstances happened the way they happened. A bad choice at the time, and it's not so much going back into it to say, this should have happened or that should have happened, and it wasn't really me that was the... Listen, what happened. I went in, I took it on the chin, and I done my time. What my main focus was to be productive when I went in there, not to waste time, because there's a lot of kids in there wasting time, but was to go in there and be productive and not only show myself, because I was vulnerable as well, but to show myself that, you know what, I can get back from this. Let me be. But that's when I started writing my autobiography. And I started writing, and I started kind of doing interviews in there. You could
I love
really
this.
say.
Yeah,
I started doing interviews in there, and I was interviewing all the officers. I was interviewing, you know, so many people, different types of people in there, and there was people in there with the highest crime rates. People in there doing life.
Myra Hindley and the sort.
Do you see what I mean? So when you look at it, and you look at the contrast, say, listen, I've been an athlete all my life.
Yeah.
The system saw it for me to go in for giving, you know, my speeding points away, granted. But the system saw it for me to go into a ACAT prison and be made an example of. So you know what, I held my hand up, I did my time, fine, I broke the law. I saw an opportunity to the point of like, you know what, I'm not gonna fall right now again. I'm gonna make sure that I come back fighting. And I did exactly that, literally. You know, give or take another year after that. Again, going through another unfortunate divorce. I put boxing gloves on, and it was a point of, I got to another stage in life where I didn't want to be back where I was in sort of 29, 10. Felt vulnerable, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be in that position anymore, so I had to fight it. And my way of fighting it was saying to my dad one day, Dad, I need to fight this. I need to fight back, and I need to jump in the ring at 35 years old. And he looked at me and smiled. He said, all right, son, let's do it. And little did I know I'd be winning an international masters title, fighting for an English title, Southern area title, like 11 fights in 4 years. You know, I retired at 39 years old. And for me, not only did it again shape my character, but it showed me that whoever's going through depression, whoever's going through that torture and can't seem to get out, granted you can't all jump in a professional boxing ring, but I really, hand on my heart, know that you can fight it. And you know, there's something I say, fight it, get help, talk. Literally, fight it, get help, talk. And that's what it's about. You embrace it, understand it, and then you go and get help and you talk.
Do you know what I thought was pretty cool when I read it, was that when you weren't playing football anymore and you were sort of figuring stuff out, you just needed a job. You didn't want to just rest back. You would have had money. You just needed to do something.
Everyone that stands out to most people.
Really?
Everyone was so, wow, like, that's amazing. Do you know what I mean? They were so encouraging.
Yeah.
Never put me down. No one ever put me down. Even when I was walked into the depot, you know, there was a few football fans in that there, and they're just like, you know what? Just gave me like the nod and fair play to you, and so I got that side of it. So that gave me a little bit more strength to try and hold on. Because the first time I remember scanning all the parcels, and the first time I looked into the van, I had like 80 parcels. Just like, I've got to deliver all these parcels, and I literally just cried.
What is it about the book that made you decide to kind of bare your soul, as it were? Why did you decide to do that?
I think, like anything, you go through your own life circumstances and gain your own experiences, and I truly was in a few occasional transitions of feeling pretty low, to the point of like I didn't know if I was really going to get out of this position that I was in. And in the end, you have to kind of make a choice to yourself. I made a choice to fight back and try and change my thought process. Try and look at things going forward, what I can do to make a change not only with my own life but to other people's, and I guess that's how starting the process of writing a book came into effect.
Lots of people say that writing is quite therapeutic. Did you find that?
Yeah, it was, because I touched on childhood, you know, going into becoming an athlete, to dealing with life, and that's why I called it My Fight with Life, because you know what, not everyone's blessed with it. Just there you go, there's life, just enjoying it's happy ever after.
I think very few people are.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to be honest with yourself, and I think dealing with the up and down challenges that life can sometimes bring, it can really shape your character, and that's what exactly did for me.
So you were writing the book, you also decided that you wanted to step inside the ring. Your dad, your uncle, very successful boxers. It was always going to happen, wasn't it?
Well, I wasn't sure actually, because as the years kept going and I was still sort of playing, I thought, well, you know, 32, 33, I'm not going to ever really jump in now, but, and then again, it was just timing. The place that I was at in my life, I felt I want to jump into professional boxing, not only to try and achieve something in another sport, but I needed to do it for me and my own mindset. And it was, you know, challenging, but at the same time I do not regret anything. Yeah. It was so close to me to be able to jump in a professional boxing ring at such a late age, fighting some, you know, fighters who had been fighting all their life, and they see this footballer coming in and they wanted to take off my head.
Yeah.
At the same time, they didn't realise that it was in my DNA, that had a little bit about me in the respect of what I ended up achieving in the end. So it was good. But boxing brought me a sense of confidence, a sense of peace, a sense of security, to be able to continue on with my life and understand that it was going to come to an end, the next fight or whenever the time was. So I had been planning quite a lot. As you see over the years, I've been doing so many things for charity. Samaritans being a fantastic charity who I truly believe in and what they do in the process.
How did that come about? Did they just contact you because of hearing you speak? Yeah,
I guess that's what it led to, from hearing me speak and be open about the issues that I faced. The Samaritans had ended up contacting me, thanking me and saying, look, we'd love you to do more things for us, and that's what I've ended up doing, which is, you know, we're in a position now of really making that transition a powerful one, and working together tremendously. And I really believe in what they do. They do a lot to help people. From a speaking and listening point of view, it's a fantastic charity.
Do you think you could ever get to the point where you spend time with them answering calls?
That's one thing I'd actually like to do as a project, to maybe spend one day taking calls. Obviously you'd have to have some form of training, but I kind of feel I'd be ready to do that. I had one massively important call when I was on TalkSport many weeks ago, and it was a gentleman that called in pretty much wanting to end it all, and I happened to be in a position of trying to deal and listen to that man's needs at the time of giving up. So you know, we were in touch today actually, which is a positive in my eyes. And you know, that one phone call and just being on the other end and just saying the right things, and more so listening to someone's need of help, can really go a long way.
Do you think if you had phoned the Samaritans or reached out for help in your mid-20s or even teens, when you were sort of feeling like you needed somebody, it would have changed your life a little bit? I
think it would have educated me more. It's very hard to say if I could go back or if we could go back. Would we have done things different? Would, you know, it's hard to really answer that, because when you're going through such a dark place as I was many times, I don't know how I would be. And I think a lot of us that do go through our tough times, that is the position that we're in. We probably have loved ones that we could go to, we probably have resources that we can go to, but we choose not to, out of the sheer fact of judgment, embarrassment, feeling weak. And this is the stigma which I'm trying to break, especially within men.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It does seem to be more of a male issue, although I feel it's beginning to change because of people like you working hard to change it.
Yeah, like I say, I'm working tremendously hard to have a deeper effect in a topic that is just staggering. The statistics in men's suicide is really, really high. Under 45 in the UK is a big deal. And if I can be a part of the change in just by speaking, then I'll continue to do that.
It's interesting as well that we're often told, and now doctors are encouraging us to exercise more to help with depression and other anxiety issues.
I think fitness, even if you go for a walk, it can really change your thought process from just by doing that. Being active is the most important thing for me, rather than sort of staying at home and not actually doing anything. That's why I'm doing boxing coaching now, and I teach classes, and the amount of people that have their own things going on in their own world, who do struggle with, and I see it in their eyes, who do struggle with their own life challenges. The way that fitness brings out a different character is tremendous. It's great to see, and I really believe that fitness is a key element into not only healing, but also being healthy in mind, body and soul.
And also a way to spend time with other people, coaches, mentors that could help them if they had other issues as well. I know that there's a new initiative, 21 by 21, where they're hoping that by 2021 there'll be 21,000 community sports coaches across the UK that will be trained in mental health awareness. And actually we should be acknowledging that side of it. It's just as much as the physical side, shouldn't they? Sure.
Just as we can get access to a normal doctor who deals with flu and when we're not feeling too great, that's put the mental health doctors in places, and the ones that are qualified to give that support and help, and put it in all industries. Every football club should have someone dealing with mental health. Every football club, every sports industry, every work really to a certain extent should have and look at this area where you employ someone for someone that they can go to. Because not every boss will have an understanding on how to deal with that individual. If that person comes to you and says, "Boss, I'm struggling with XYZ," you still might have a boss that's very old-fashioned and set in his ways and rolls up his sleeve and saying, "Well, get on with it. We've got business to attend to." At the same time, if you say the right things at that particular moment, you could be saving that person's life. So it's definitely well worth looking into.
And like you say, it's not just the sporting industry, it's all sorts of industries.
Society.
Yeah, and you've talked about construction being one of the worst. Why do you think that is?
Another pressured job. I mean, I spoke at a few sites now in Manchester. HE Sims is one of the companies, massive company construction wise, and the problem that you've got there is, again, it's a very male orientated, get on with it kind of industry. Pressure though, so you have to. There's a certain extent where they have to bring results, and when you don't meet that criteria, or you feel like you may be failing in a certain position, I think it has effect in those, especially men. There was one scenario, to give you an example, where I spoke in Manchester in a construction company, and at the end of my talk there was a gentleman who put his hand up at the end, and quite quiet, very reserved, didn't really say much at all, and at the end he put his hand up and he said, "Leon, thank you for that. there's many people in the room that have never really spoken to me at all, because I'm very quiet and I come in and I just get on with my work and I work hard and I just get on with things. But no one's ever asked anything really about me. Sometimes in the work industry you can just, you know, keep yourself to yourself, and I appreciate that. But this man said, like, you know what, I've just lost a child. And the whole room went silent, and there was more and more people putting their hands up to speak. And the most incredible thing about that situation was one person put his hand up. I'm so sorry. I've every time I've seen you, I've always like took the mick out of you. I've always thought, oh, why is he always quiet? He doesn't ever say anything. He's like not one of us kind of thing. But yet forgot about maybe what's actually happened. And it's only until this particular gentleman opened up and was honest to everyone in his work environment, to say about the loss and how he's been, you know, really struggling with it and not coping, him and his wife not coping. It then just lets something off, and that is exactly why I do what I do, because when you see things like that, you can see things from a different insight and a different light, because, you know, when someone shuts their door, whether they come into work and they do what they do, but if they're very quiet, this is my point, and when I go in I always say, listen, if someone is quiet, you see the behaviour pattern not exactly normal, then there's no harm in asking that person if they are okay.
Yeah.
That's it. It's very simple.
Yeah. It's so simple, isn't it? Maybe we all need to do that more.
Yeah.
And this is through your company, of course. Tell us about it.
Mind Reposition is something I set up, again, since I've been sort of speaking all over the UK. Mind Reposition brings me access to go and speak all over, provides help on my website, www.mindreposition.com, and just gives people access to be able to not only listen to me and what I'm doing and move with me, but at the same time, if they do need help, there's access to the likes of Samaritans and Calm is another charity I'm ambassador for, and just gain a little bit of confidence in maybe just looking into different areas of, you know, like the small things, just looking on a website.
15 years ago, did you ever think you'd be doing something like this?
No. 15 years ago, I mean, it was, my life was pretty fast, and a lot of growing up to do, and a lot of changes, and not coping with things ending, because which I think a lot of us it's sort of setting with us, how, you know, when we plan things and it might not go to plan. And then I always bring it back to this, because if you imagine, like, you have a job that you've loved for so many years and you've been doing it for so many years, and that gets taken away from you and it's not your call, the mind can really mess with you a little bit if you're not prepared for that ending.
Yeah. It's
like anything, and it's like if you lose the loved one and you're not prepared for that loved one to not be here anymore, if you don't get the right support, if you don't get the right help, of course there's a grief. It's the same thing with any kind of type of work that you may love and do.
Yeah. So how are you now?
Good days, bad days. Still, you know, listen, mental health is, I've educated myself with it, so I've learnt to understand me a lot more. Depression has been a massive part of my life. Depression still is with me. It won't ever go, because it's just something in there where I can't. But what I do is now is that I've learned to control it. I've learned how to cope. I've learned how to understand that when it does hit me, when it can sometimes really hold me down, the good months have turned into good days. The good days have turned into, do you know what I mean? And things get better with time. It's just understanding to keep active. So I like to be active, and if I'm not having a great day, I'll embrace it and say, you know what, I'm having a bad day today. Is what it is. Don't beat myself up so much. But I will try and find something productive to do in that particular day, even if it's going for like a run. I'll do something to make myself feel better, or I might try and see my children Something that's going to provide me with feeling stable again.